plan cash management, then first of all we have to plan about the receipts and about the payments. So whenever we have to prepare cash budget, we have to find out all the receipts on the one hand, and we have to find out all the payments on the one hand, and we have to write down opening balance of cash plus receipts minus payments, and remaining figure will be closing balance of cash, and this will be opening balance of cash for next month. This is a planning aspect. After that, control aspect. Finance manager should take steps for speedy recovery from debtors, and for this purpose proper internal control system should be installed in the firm. So first of all, we have to speed up the inflow. The inflow which may be received after a 1 month, we should try to recover before due date or on due date. It should be the mechanism of controlling the inflow. Next, periodic statement should be prepared to show outstanding bill. We have to prepare our periodic statement that how much bills are outstanding and what are the date to pay. It means suppose we have to pay different bills on different date, that we should prepare a statement date wise. Like suppose we have to pay 5 bills on January 1, we have different bills, suppose different 5 bills on January 2, on different 10 bills on January 3, and different 10 bills on January 4. Then we should record, we should keep in that way, so that this statement should be in hand like a ready reckoner, and we should be able by only reading, or you can say by only spending 1 minute, we should be able what type of the expenses we have to do on the different date. So we have to maintain periodic statement to show outstanding bills. Next, incentive offered to the customer for early or prompt payment. We should offer incentive to the customer for early or prompt payment, so that we may receive cash as early as possible. For example, if a customer is ready to pay on 15, but if we are offering that if you are paying me before 15, it means on 10 or before 10, we are ready to pay you the discount of 10 or 20%, then customer will be ready to pay before date. And if he is ready to pay before date, then we can earn, or you can say we can recover the payments promptly. Number 3, the time lag in collection of receivables can be considerably reduced by managing the time taken by postal intermediaries and bank. So sometimes we may face problem, then our customer is not in our place, and they are very far from our place. So sometimes it's create a problem because they have to take on the help of banking and postal system, and because we don't have any control on the postal system and the banking system, so it takes time. So to remove this type of the problem, we may focus on concentration banking and lockbox system. Wow, what is the concentration banking? Under this method, the collection centers are opened as near to the debtors as possible, hence reducing the time in dispatch, collection, etc. It means suppose your customer is available in north east, then what you have to do, you have to open a collection center near the debtors, because debtors want to pay you, but because they don't have the chances, they don't have the sufficient way by which they can pay you. So you have to come forward, you have to open some collection centers, and by visit of the collection center, they will be able to pay you promptly. Logbox system. Under this method, the customer mail their payment to a post office box near their workstation. The firm arrange with a local bank or some other agency to collect the payment and credit to firm's account as quickly as possible. Logbox system is just like consultation banking. Now, in this system, we have to contact to a of post office, and they will give you a logbox. Logbox work as a post box. Here you can collect all the remittances and all the cash and all the payment from your customer to your logbox. Next is the controlling outflow. There's no need to make any early payments unless there is a discount offered. The credit facility allowed by creditor should be fully utilized. So you have to talk about the two things. Number one, prompt payment and delay in outflow. If you can collect the payment promptly, then you have to work by logbox system, by consultation banking, and by giving different type of discount to the your customers. But whenever you have to make the payment, you have to assure that you there is no need to make early payments if discount is not offered to you. So credit facility allowed by creditor should be fully utilized. It means if the payment is due on 15, it should be paid on 15. There is no need to pay before 15 if party is not giving you any type of discount to you. Now, balance lying in bank should also be managed to take maximum advantage out of it. There may not be a balance in a bank account when a check is issued, but there must be a sufficient balance when the check is expected to be presented for payment. It means there is no need to maintain balance in the bank every time if you are not receiving any type of the interest, because it is assumed that if you are running an organization, you are opening, you are having an uh, you are having an account, and on this account, because this account is a business account, and if you are having a business account, it means it's a current account. In normal condition, you are not receiving any type of the interest on the current account, so there is no need to maintain idle cash in this account. You have to maintain the cash only on that time when check is expected to be present. It means if you are issuing a check to a customer on 10 January, and if you don't have the cash, there is no need to maintain the cash. But if date of check, it means to clear the check is around 20, then you should have sufficient cash on 20, because if you don't have sufficient cash on 20, then your goodwill will go down. Next is delay in payment. Outflow on account of expense may also be delayed as far as possible, particularly when the expenses can be accrued easily. For example, if tax is to be deposited within 7 days of the expiry of the month, then tax must be paid on 7. So it's very much clear that whenever you have to payments, then the delay which can be accepted, you have to take the help of this type of the policy. It means if you can pay on 7, then there is no need to pay before 7, because if you are not receiving any type of the discount, any type of benefit, then there is no need to pay before due date. And what is the impact actually? Impact is if you are delaying in the payment, then you may reduce the size of operating cycle. And if you are able to reduce the size of the operating cycle of the organization, then you can increase the profitability of the organization. Next is managing the float. There is usually a time gap between the time the check is written and when it is cleared. This time gap is known as float. Float denote the funds that have been dispatched by a payer but are not informed that can be sent by pay. The float has three types: mail time, processing time, and collection time. So float means the time when check is written and when it is cleared. It means if you return a check to pay anyone, the date is 15, but to clear the date of clearance of this check is around 30, then the time gap is between return and clear is the float. So this has three components: mail time, processing time, and collection time. In mail time it is the period between the issue of a check and its receipt by the pay. Processing time, the check received by pay and deposit of check in bank account of pay. And collection time is the amount of time for transferring fund through banking system from the payer's account to that of the pay. In India, this collection time is generally 3 days, including the day of depositing a check. Now, there are some models which tells us about the cash balance should be maintained by the organization. If we talk about the cash management, there are two models: Baumol model and Miller and Orr model. The Baumol model was suggested by W.J. Baumol, and this model is same as economic ordered quantity model. It's just like a EOQ model. In EOQ model, we have to identify the economic order quantity. It means the quantity which should be ordered by the organization, and it tells us the economic order quantity, and as well as it tells us the number of orders should be made by the organization in a particular year. So on the same time, if we talk about the W.J. Baumol model, it's just like a EOQ model. This model attempt to balance the income foregone on cash held by the firm against the transaction cost of converting cash into marketable securities. These are the assumptions of Baumol model. Number one, the firm uses cash at an already known rate per period, and this rate of use is constant. So it has the assumption that the need of cash will always be constant. Number two, there is always a cost of holding cash by a firm. This cost may be opportunity cost in terms of interest foregone on the investment of this cash. It means it has the assumption that whenever an organization is holding cash with the organization, it means it has to pay some cost, and this cost is an opportunity cost, because if an organization is keeping around 10 lakh rupees with the organization, then it is losing the interest on the money, and interest on the money may be 10% of 10 lakh. It means it has to maintain the cash according to requirement of the organization. If it is maintaining more and more cash and there is no need of cash and cash is ideal, it means the organization has to suffer an opportunity cost. Assumption number three, whenever cash is to be converted into marketable securities or vice versa, there is always a transaction cost. So assumption number three is, if you are having cash, then you may have the option to convert into marketable security. But whenever you have to convert cash into marketable security or marketable security into cash, you have to face a transaction cost. Now, let's talk about the model. This model is based on the proposition that in order to reduce the holding cost, a firm keeps the least amount of cash in hand. However, the cash level dictates the firm can acquire cash by selling some of its marketable securities. Each time firm transacts in this way, it bears transaction cost, so it will like to transact as occasionally as possible. Thus, firm has to deal with holding cost and transaction cost. The optimum cash balance is found by controlling both the costs. So, in this model, Baumol says that because we have assumption that whenever a firm has idle cash with itself, then it has to face an opportunity cost. And whenever the organization is facing or bearing this type of opportunity cost, it increases the cost, and whenever you are having more cost, it means your expenses increases, and as a consequence, your profitability will reduce. So, firm tries to maintain level of cash as least as possible. But on the same time, if organization doesn't have sufficient cash, then it unable to pay its liabilities on time, and if it failed to pay its liabilities on time, then goodwill of the organization falls, and it creates different type of a problem for the organization in near future. So organization has to deal with holding cost and the transaction cost. Holding cost means you are holding cash, and because of holding cash, you have to pay, and you have to uh, pay an opportunity cost in form of interest for loan. And on the same time, if you are not having idle cash in the organization, then you are converting this cash into marketable securities. And when you need cash, this marketable security is sold by you, and again you have cash. But if you are converting this idle cash into marketable securities, and again this marketable security into cash at the time of need of the cash, then it is having a transaction cost. So you have to maintain the trade-off between transaction cost and the holding cost. To find out, simply we have a formula: C is equal to 2ft upon R square root. The square root of 2ft upon R, where C is the cash required each time. It means the minimum cash balance which is required by you to fulfill the need of the requirement. R is the interest, T is the transaction cost, and F is the total cash required during the year. So this is the graph of Baumol model. On the one axis we have cost, and another axis we have cash balance. Here we have transaction cost, holding cost, and this is the total cost. So the quantity which is ascertained by the Baumol model is the quantity of the cash where holding cost and transactions cost, if we combine both the cost, then the total cost will be minimum. But if we are having cash more than the amount which is suggested by the model, then the total cost will be more. At the same time, if we are maintaining cash less than the amount which is suggested by the BOML, then the total cost again will be higher. These are the limitations of BOML model. It assumes a constant disbursement rate. It ignores cash receipts during the period, and it doesn't allow for safety cash reserves. Now, next model is Miller-Orr model. Miller-Orr have expanded BOML model, which is not applicable if demand for cash is not steady. It means BOML model is applicable only in the situation where demand of cash is steady, but sometimes it's not possible that demand of cash is steady, because sometimes we have sudden up and down in the business, so demand of cash sometime up and sometime down in the business. If balance fluctuate randomly, then a model may be used to set control limit. The model assumes number one, out of two assets, that is cash and marketable securities, the latter has a marginal yield. It means the model assumes that if you are having an opportunity to hold cash and marketable security, then it's very much clear that having marketable security is good for the organization, because if you are having marketable security, certainly you are getting return, but if you are having only cash with the organization, you are losing returns from the security. Second, transfer of cash to marketable security and vice versa is possible without any delay but some cost. So we have to assume that whenever we have to convert cash into marketable security and whenever we have to convert marketable security into cash, it may be converted very quickly, but whenever you have to do this type of the transaction, you have to bear some cost. The model has specified two control limits for cash balance: an upper limit H, beyond which cash balance need not be allowed to go, and a lower limit L, below which cash level is not allowed to reduce. If cash level reaches the upper level, a part of cash balance should be invested in marketable securities. If cash level reaches the lower level, L, then sufficient marketable securities should be sold to realize cash. So simply this model given you two control limits. One is H and another is L. H denotes for higher level of cash. It means it tells you this is the highest limit of the cash. For example, an organization is having 10 lakh rupees and it has a H on the level of rupees 50 lakh and L on the level of rupees 5 lakh. It means whenever an organization is having balance of cash more than 15 lakh rupees, then he has to convert the cash into marketable securities. And whenever organization is having cash less than 5 lakh rupees, then he should sell the marketable securities and it should be converted into cash. So the level which should be required by the organization as rupees 10 lakh, but it can be maintained at rupees 15 lakh and it can be maintained up to rupees 5 lakh. But if we go beyond the 15 lakh, then there is a danger level. Danger level means the level where you are losing profitability, because there is a lot of fund remain idle with the organization, and as a consequence, you have to lose the profitability. On the same time, if you are having the level of level below rupees 5 lakh, it means you will have some problem, you may face some problem whenever you have to pay for shorter period. It means whenever you have to pay for current liabilities, you may have some adverse situation and it may create a problem for your organization. So it suggests you to maintain the level of between H and L. These are two lines. If we see the graph, here is the upper limit and here is the lower limit, and this is the return point. This is the formula of Miller-Orr model. Z is equal to 3 by 4 into C sigma square divided by R I, root 1 by 3. So whenever you have to find out upper limit, simply use the formula, calculate Z and write down lower limit plus 3Z, then you may find upper limit. And whenever you have to find out return point, simply write down lower limit plus Z, and whenever you have to find out average cash balance, it will be lower limit plus 4 by 3 Z. This is the example. Thank you very much.